Japan by River Cruise is made possible thanks to those who donate to the show at japanbyrivercruise.com, which we sincerely appreciate. Thank you for supporting the show. Of course, we couldn't do it without the generosity of our corporate sponsors either.
The Japanese design aesthetic is famous the world over. There's something unique about the Japanese approach to visual problem solving, and you're able to learn it in this exclusive 5-week course. Week 1 looks at typography and how you can make any brochure look fancy by adding a word in katakana. Week 2 teaches product design, focusing on how to make sure your products are conceived with enough surface space for people to stick a whole bunch of post-it notes on them, explaining what buttons to push and why. Week 3 is all about website design, which includes a free checklist to make sure that you include every colour and every font your system supports. In Week 4 you'll understand the principles of white space, or as it's more commonly known, the gaijin seat. In Week 5, interior design, where each day is spent on one of the 7 interior design fundamentals: beige 101, white, beige 102, black, beige 103, a flower, and advanced beige. Book your place now and we'll include the graduate level course for free. Please note, the graduate level course is just a downloadable database of Great Wave vectors.
Hello, Brian, and welcome back to Japan by River Cruise. I'm Bobby Judo.
And I'm Ollie Horn.
And returning this week is Baye McNeil, author of the Japan Times Black Eye on Japan, and books like Hi, My Name is Loco and I'm a Racist, which he's just signed a deal to have published in Japanese as well. He also runs the Southern Comfort-sponsored Tsurumi River Party cruise, Soko in Yokohama. Baye, it's great to have you back.
Great to be back, man.
On this week's show, a Nike Japan commercial focusing on the struggles faced by mixed-race youth in Japan has the country divided. How divided exactly? That's difficult to say. Some would call it half, while others would call it not Japanese enough. In any case, we'll see what Baye has to say about what Japan has to say about what this multi-billion-dollar corporation has to say about social justice. Plus, Ollie's got your weekly River Cruise recommendation. Ollie?
Yes, this week's recommendation is a new Tokyo cruise that is a stone's throw away from Google's office in Shibuya, which Gmail users can claim a free pair of tickets for if they reach so-called Inbox Zero when they board, as part of a new promotional campaign. Critics of the scheme have pointed out that since the confirmation email needs to be shown when boarding, no passenger has yet gotten on for free.
Also, later in the show, River Cruise providers all over the country race to emulate the Osaka model, which features a well-defined traffic light system for monitoring seating capacity, a very well-spoken communications director, and 0 substantial policy differences. Also, compared to the other major Japanese models, the Osaka one is kind of rude.
Baye, I can't believe it was over 20 episodes ago that you last came on the show. Way back in episode 40, you came on at quite a somber time in your career, where you were having to do the news rounds explaining the Black Lives Matters protests to a domestic Japanese audience and beyond. Thankfully, we've got you back on with slightly more positive news. You've just got your book deal, and we can see potentially some progress because a big multinational corporation has shone a light on the fact that Japan's not equal yet, and we'll talk about that in the news. But what's changed in the last 6 months?
Well, I'm building a house in Tokyo, so it's almost done, and we'll be moving in next month.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a hell of a process.
Together a house takes a long time.
Actually, I think they started in June, so it's only been about 6 months. So yeah.
Yeah, so it really would have been when you were on the podcast last.
Yeah,
you would have started.
that's about the time it started.
Good, and you thought, you know what? This podcast was so successful, I'm going to back myself and build a house.
Exactly.
And how else have you been keeping busy?
Well, I'm working on an audiobook of my first book. And so we've been doing weekly sessions, try to get that done by February or March. So, Sam Jackson and Morgan Freeman, they turned me down. So I say, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to do it myself. And so far, so good. So far, it's not as easy as I thought, though.
Baye,
writing.
I'm gonna call bullshit real quick because I know for a fact that Samuel L. Jackson doesn't turn anything down.
I'm sorry, he turned this one down, and I was pissed. I'm like, you did the snakes on the plane shit, and you wouldn't do my book. You did that fucking bedtime story bullshit, and you didn't do my book, but he didn't. So, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not.
He
mad.
even read Eels on a River Cruise, our audiobook.
Yeah, it's a very involved process actually, but I think my problem is that I don't know. I read too fast.
Mm.
So you gotta learn how to breathe and take a breath. And right now I'm listening to Barack Obama's audiobook right now of his new book. And he is just so fucking cool, right? You can just see him sitting down by the fireplace, reading his fucking book, taking his time. I'm like, okay.
I hadn't heard the audiobook, but I guess that means Samuel L. Jackson didn't do that one either.
No. Samuel Jackson just turned down everybody.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm taking notes on how Obama's doing it, and I'm gonna try to, use him as a role model for producing a great audiobook. Because so far it's amazing, man. I just feel like he's right there in the room with you. I mean, it's so.
And then you've got your work cut out to improve your Japanese pronunciation, so you can do the Japanese audiobook of your own book. Is that the goal?
I have a master plan for that because audiobooks are not that popular in Japan right now. But I think somebody's going to have to do what took place in the States to make them popular here, and that's going to be me.
What took place in the States to make them popular?
They started using celebrities like Sam Jackson.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Duh. But I'm going to but I'm going to do the same thing here. But
yeah,
we'll see how that works out.
Is this your official request to Bobby Judo to voice your book?
No.
Basically.
I gotta suggest
Bobby, you can do it in Japanese. You can do it.
Get Downtown Hamada to do it. He'll do the voice.
Ooh. I wonder if he'll remember me. Like, wait a minute, aren't you the guy?
Right, well, we look forward to that coming out. I'll definitely be buying it.
But thank you.
Normally, I only listen to Japan by River Cruise, but I'll make an exception for this work.
Much obliged, man.
We do have some people to thank, our listeners. We should have thanked Claire last week, who subscribed to be a member. As you know, members get access to extra bits of content. In fact, this week's going to be no exception. No doubt there's going to be lots of content that Baye has shared that won't make the main episode. So if you're interested in hearing more, then you can join Claire, who we're very grateful for, by going to buymeacoffee.com/Japan by River Cruise. Bobby, who else do we need to thank?
Also, we need to thank Ishikawa Summit to Sea, who bought us 3 coffees as a thank you for me being a guest on their podcast. And I recommend listening to at least that one. I mean, that one's worth the listen. There was a funny moment in it where I begrudgingly was praising you. We were talking about how Ali, if you listen to his comedy, it's easy to forget that he's really smart.
Thank you.
But you do come across as like very intellectual and very intelligent in a lot of our discussions. And I made a joke and I said, if you are a close listener to the podcast, even this podcast, you'll notice that one of us sounds like they know what they're doing and doesn't know what they're talking about. And the other one is the opposite. Like, doesn't always seem like they know what they're talking about, but does. And Casey, on their show, asked if that dynamic was by design. And after the fact, I was like, wait, did he just ask me if I'm stupid on purpose? Did you mean to be dumb? Was that planned?
I mean, you look thick. Are you putting it on? All right, well, let's test how stupid you are by taking a look at this week's news. Bobby Judo, what's in the news this week?
There is a new Nike Japan commercial that shows 3 young women, 2 mixed race, 1 ethnically Korean, in Japan. And it shows scenes of their daily lives and the discriminatory treatment that they face. And then they show them channeling their feelings into excelling at sport and thereby triumphing over racism, maybe. Baye, you must be thrilled after seeing the Japanese reactions to this shoe advertisement because according to them, there's no racism in Japan. Thoughts?
Yeah. Hallelujah. That it makes my life easier to hear that.
But does it though? Now you can't sell any books.
Well, I could sell books about, the racism that used to exist here before Nike came along.
Okay. So let's approach this from two directions, right? Like why do you think Nike did this, and also like the reactions all over. What was your reaction when you first saw the commercial?
Honestly, my reaction was it felt like Naomi Osaka is on the she's getting aggressive, more aggressive as far as addressing the racism, addressing the bullying and the discrimination here in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, she promised that she was going to get involved, and she has gotten involved.
And she is featured in this commercial. It's not a commercial.
Only for a brief moment, but I'm sure she was behind it, And I feel like this was her way of saying, I'm in the game now.
Yeah.
I'm stepping onto, I'm doing my part to address the issues here that are not being addressed. And I'm using this international sponsor to do that.
And they knew they were going to ruffle feathers.
Yeah, I think they intended to. I think they intended to spark conversation, spark debate, and they did just that. It's brilliant.
Unfortunately, it hasn't sparked conversation so much as a lot of very angry people going, nope, 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 nope.
I disagree. There's a lot of angry people, but there's always a lot of angry people on the internet. I mean, there's no way around that. But the people I've spoken to, people who are in education here in Japan and whatnot, they're promising to teach it in their classes.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing I'm hearing. I'm hearing from the people who are approving of it and how they're going to make sure that this is seen and addressed and understood widely. So the naysayers are always going to be there. There's always going to be somebody who's going to come out and say something negative about it. I just hope that Nike realizes how incredible this particular piece was and how effective it's been in addressing exactly what they wanted to do.
Well, they were actually making 2 points, and one of the points I do have a personal problem with, which is the premise that you can be bullied into being good at sport. I was bullied at school, and I cannot run for shit. So that is a fair criticism, right? But the idea...
It didn't work for me either. I was bullied too. I never learned how to...
But that aside, what the commercial seeks to show is life as a mixed race individual in Japan is difficult and trying. And the main point of this advert is that, right? They just wanted to shine a spotlight on the fact that these young people are bullied.
And the reactions to it, I mean, I don't think they're like always saying, everybody's saying, no. I've seen a lot of people who are very happy to see this. I think a lot of people find it a sign of progress, find it encouraging, enjoy that this is being publicized in Japan. The no's are coming from Japanese right-wingers who are, again, like, I don't know if they're necessarily a minority, but they're really loud. Their bark is louder than their numbers, most likely. And of their reactions, the most common one is Nike, don't bring this racism problem over to Japan. There is no racist problem in Japan. And people have held up like the Rugby World Cup team, which is very diverse, as evidence that there's no racism in Japan. It
just verifies the point that it there's a lot of tone deafness here. There's a lot of people just, I know, out of America, we have the Black Lives Matters, but I think here in Japan, they need a biracial lives matter. They need their own BLM here because you have Louis Hachimura, you've had Ariana Miyamoto, you have Priyanka Yoshiwara, you've had Aisha Tochigi, all these people who are biracial and have reached platforms where they can reach the entire nation, have spoken out against bullying that they've experienced in their lives, and people are still saying, oh, there's no racism, there's no bullying, and Nike's, creating a problem that doesn't exist. So they're not really paying attention to the voices of Japanese people who are speaking out against this.
I agree, and I would maybe suggest that it's not biracial lives matter. I would suggest maybe biracial people are Japanese. Because one of the reactions that I've seen to this commercial when they deny the racism, they go, no, I've seen modern Japanese schools and gaikokujin of all kinds get along with Japanese people. And It's like, that's the problem. The people in this commercial are not gaikokujin. They're Japanese kids. And
exactly.
that's the issue right there.
It is the issue. I was having a conversation with a student of mine today, and she was kind of launching assaults on the right wing here and the conservative mindset here. And I said, I think your definition of conservative is maybe you're talking about the ultra conservative or the ultra right wing. I said, to me, the very definition of a conservative in Japan is anyone who equates gaijin with anything. So if you say gaijin equals strange or gaijin equal problem, you are conservative at best. At best. You know, and she looked at me like, huh? Because she knows she was also, you know, partakes of that mindset. And that is the predominant mindset you're going to encounter in Japan, of people who think of non-Japanese as a group and Japanese as a group. And if you do that, to me, you're conservative. You're leaning towards conservatism, and you're open to some of the ideas they're going to push forward.
We've mentioned this time and time again on the show, but one issue that hinders this debate is many Japanese people do genuinely believe that Japanese people can be grouped as a race. And they like the idea that there is one such thing as Japanese identity, which is why people don't really understand the problem that, say, when there was this news article about Osaka, why does Osaka have more COVID cases? Oh, because Osakans are more Latino than the rest of Japan. Yeah, more Latin, right? And I mean, firstly, that's conjures up a really funny image of people kind of salsering down the Dotonbori. But also, that's not seen as an issue because, I mean, maybe Latin people do share certain characteristics, and that's a nice proxy to describe certain loud personality traits. And so obviously part of the reason this debate is so difficult is Japanese people like being comforted by the fact that Japaneseness is a thing.
Yeah, they do it in their language too, because they like to identify certain things as Japanese, and if they identify positive characteristics in foreigners, they say the foreigners are Nihonjin-poi, they're like Japanese. And when they identify, characteristics that they don't like in a group of people, like people from Osaka, they say it's Nihonjin banare shiteru, which means like they're a little bit different from Japanese, which it took me years to figure out that that's a euphemism for they're kind of dicks.
You guys, yeah. So let's say there's Nihonjin and then there's, dicks. This dichotomy, and
it's the dickotomy by it.
It's the dichotomy.
It's pronounced dichotomy.
It's this dichotomy. That's
well, if we're doing puns, then I'll just make my observation that I didn't think that the advert was that bad because they were showing slip-on shoes, which shows there's no signs of lacism.
Which the same thing cannot be said about that joke, which is got a separate layer if you want to read into it there.
No, don't read any other layers. It's no. The joke is what it is. Let's get back to the discussion.
Yeah.
Baye, these discussions are the kind of discussions which you wanted to happen, right? Yeah. Are you happy that the discussions are happening on the terms that this Nike ad has set?
Well, that's a good question, actually.
Thank you. I'm the intelligent one.
I'd prefer that a Japanese company be the impetus for this type of conversation. Nissan, Shiseido, one of these companies do something similar to what Nike did here. I would prefer that because it's more difficult for these right-wing characters to come out against a Japanese company the same way they've came full guns, all guns aimed and targeted at Nike. And I hope, and it's going to be difficult because of all the backlash, but I would hope that a Japanese company would see what Nike did and be inspired by it to do it themselves. But after watching the backlash, they're probably going to be like, okay, we're not touching that shit. So that's discouraging. That's sad that they're going to let the negative responses to this particular ad probably deter them from going down that path. But I was hoping they would. When I first saw it, I said, "Oh God, this could start a whole new level of corporate. How you say corporate responsibility or corporate social responsibility. This could start a whole new level of that here in Japan because I see some of it in Japan, but not addressing these types of things, not often enough." There needs to be more of it. It needs to be on some of the more major companies, Toyota, Honda. These guys need to get involved in it. But
I wanted
after
to
seeing
raise
the
that point.
backlash, it's probably going to be a deterrent.
I wanted to raise that point about corporate responsibility, more specifically the fact that this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's doing this, because I don't know, it kind of reminds me of, like when the Marvel movies make, Captain Marvel, or there's some film reviewers that I watch that talk about, like, the Ghostbusters female reboot, where everybody labels it, feminism and activism, and if you don't like the movie, you're anti-feminist, you're anti-social activism. But the reviewers point out that it's a money grab. It's a major corporation trying to get as much money as possible and branding their corporate slop as social justice and activism, and consumers eat it up. And so the fact that this is Nike, I hate to be cynical, but like as positive as the impact is, I still can't escape the fact that this is a major corporation who's doing this to sell athletic wear.
Yeah, and at the time of recording, they've had over 11 million people look at their logo as a result of this advert on YouTube alone.
Well, they've been doing this since the 80s, so they're not new to this game. The problem I have is that they are involved in some malfeasance here in Japan. I mean, not in Japan, in Asia.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
especially in regards to what's happening in China with the and don't help me with the pronunciation.
Uyghurs. The Uyghurs.
There. I saw the story in the New York Times last weekend about the lobbyists, Nike lobbyists' efforts to try to, prevent the laws against using the labor from this group.
Oh, no, I hadn't seen that. That sounds...
Yeah, and that's problematic,
Oh, I didn't have high standards for Nike's labor law considerations to start with, but man.
Yeah, they've had labor issues. Most corporations have labor, issues, but Nike's had them. But they've been trying to deal with them. That's the thing, because they realize they're under the radar, especially when on one hand they're addressing human rights issues, and on the other hand they're,
right.
But so they've really been trying to take care of it, but this thing is kind of dark. So yeah, they weren't the right company to do this. I love what they've done. I just wish that it was a different company that did it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I'll phrase it in a slightly different way, but my big issue with this is that I love this message. I love this visibility, and that half people, mixed race people in Japan, can watch this and see the message saying, we see you, we see your struggle, we appreciate what you go through, it does get better. But it makes me a little bit concerned that message is not coming from the government. I wish it was coming from the government or an educational network or something along those lines, and not a sports corporation that's looking at half black kids going, hey, you guys like sports. You want some sneakers?
Yeah. Did your daughters watch this, by the way?
My daughters?
Yeah.
No. They're 5. No.
Well, I don't know.
Do you feel like this commercial speaks to them in any way?
I feel like it might in the future. My wife and I talked about it yesterday. But I mean, the only reason they haven't watched it is because they're 5. Like they don't.
Okay.
They watch twice videos. But no, I think that these are issues that they will be dealing with in their own way when they're in, elementary school, middle school, high school. Definitely. I think it will speak to them in their experience.
Well, of course, one positive thing about this being a Nike commercial rather than a domestic Japan commercial only for a domestic audience is that there's been worldwide coverage. And Baye, I noticed that you were recently interviewed by Le Monde, and you put on your Facebook account a brief account of your interaction with the journalist. And the journalist started their interview by saying, well, while of course there is discrimination in Japan, it's nothing like the discrimination that exists in France, where black people get beaten up by the police, or of course the US, which we've covered on this podcast, and you've already shared your thoughts. And while on the one hand what the journalist is saying is true, that there isn't that kind of physical violence that happens in Japan to the extent that it does in other countries. You pointed out that he's coming at this from completely the wrong perspective, and this is a loaded question. How do you deal with people like this?
Well, fortunately, there haven't been too many reporters coming at me with those types of loaded questions, so I haven't had to deal with it too often with reporters. But the public, when you're dealing with people who are, for example, I have friends or family and supporters and readers that are in the States. And they're like, what you're talking about is minutia, man, compared to what we're dealing with here.
Right.
And they got a point, but you can't totally disregard what's happening over here. It's all related. It's all relative. It's all connected. Like I wrote in that response to this particular journalist, what we're dealing with here in Japan, the fear and ignorance that we're dealing with here in Japan, it can escalate at any moment. You know, and it has from time to time. But I think that this right now, Japan is at a very delicate moment in its history, and it could go either way. And I think the onus is on the people here who are aware of this to try to do what they can to try to try to guide things in a positive direction. I mean, I feel right now Japan is on the brink of either fully embracing the diversity that's here or totally leaning in a direction that's going to exacerbate some of the discrimination and injustice and inequality that occurs here. And I'm just trying to do my part to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
You mentioned in the piece that it's become normalized that some people call Koreans cockroaches and use this kind of language which dehumanizes people. And I think the point you make is very salient, that of course right now there isn't police brutality. Koreans aren't just punched on the street for being Korean. But that starts when they're dehumanized with this kind of language. Right, you're right that I think it all play. It's all the same. It's all the same problem, just shown in different ways. And I think you've identified a very good point that Japan can go in one of two directions. It can embrace its diversity, or it can look at the fact that Japan has some of the weaker hate speech laws in the world, and there isn't really much to be done to stop this low level stuff, which might actually be symptomatic of the same kind of attitudes which exist worldwide and which present themselves in far more harrowing ways.
They do indeed.
I see it in terms of not just problems with the laws, but in a problem of people's casual attitudes towards things and the way they phrase things. And even in this Nike commercial, there's a section where a girl is scrolling through news. She's a ethnically Korean Japanese girl, and she's scrolling through news, and she comes across an article that says Zainichi Mondai, which means the ethnically Korean Japanese problem. And that's a phrase that people use when they aren't racist. Just like for a long time when they talked about racism in America against black people, in Japanese they called it the Kokujin Mondai, which is the black people problem, which to me sounds very reminiscent of like the final solution. Kind of like language that it makes it
match
sound
problem
like,
with solution.
Yeah, it makes it sound like black people are the problem instead of saying, like the white people problem, which is what it is.
Hey, thanks very much for listening to this episode 63 of Japan by River Cruise. If you enjoyed the show and you're not a subscriber, then please do hit that subscribe button. We have a new episode every single week.
Thank you to our guest. Baye, you have made the exclusive club of people who've been on Japan by River Cruise more than once, who are not me and Ali. We'll be putting all the links to your content in the show notes. Anything else you'd like the listeners to know?
Well, yeah, actually there is. I'll be doing something I've been doing for the last few years now. This is a annual event, Kwanzaa in Japan event. It'll be this year because of COVID. It will be online. So follow me on Twitter and you can get all the information. But it's going to be on December 26th, and there'll be more information on the website. So please follow me on Twitter. I'll be providing more information there.
Is it open for anybody to participate?
It is open for anyone to participate.
Okay, cool. I'd like to check that out. As always, thanks to everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.